Tony is fully aware that he is broken in many aspects of life. However, he refuses to change. And the therapy sessions become a conscience confessional, yet shows no true progress. And as the show goes on, as Tony continues to visit his therapist, he starts to complain about how there's no progress being done. However, his therapist is saying, you were the one, like ultimately, I cannot make you change. You have to be willing to change, and then we can work from there. Additional symbolism with Sopranos. So in the very first episode, the duck scene is very significant to the whole point of the show. Many people overlook this scene just because it is, on surface level, Tony has a, flock of ducks that has been hanging out in his pool, and he has somewhat gotten attached to them. And when they leave, he gets very depressed and starts having panic attacks. And ultimately, that is where the show begins, is where Tony begins, feeling very depressed. He begins having, regular panic attacks, and that's where the therapy begins. And in season 1, when the duck scene happens, it's very symbolic for Tony's fear of losing his family, which a lot of people may see this as a surface level scene. However, it means so much more than many people may think. Number 2, the coma scene in season 6. So Tony Soprano, he gets put into a coma for, multiple days, and he goes through some crazy dreams. And, in the show, in real life, Tony has a New York accent. He is very, Italian. He has the ways, his name is Tony Soprano. In this dream that he has, this ongoing dream that keeps reoccurring during his coma, his identity is Kevin Finity, and he does not hold any type of New York accent or anything. And why this scene is so symbolic is, the coma scene is so symbolic, is his loss of identity or death and his fear of it. Throughout the show, many things happen in which, Tony begins to question his identity, question, what his moral compass actually is. And you'll see that if you ever end up watching it. The ultimate moment of symbolism in the season finale, Made in America, of the very last season of the show, for meditation of death, perspective, and the unknown. So the very last episode of this show is so, monumental, I feel, because it is called Made in America, and at the end of the show, in the last episode, you see everybody in Tony's family getting their stuff together. So they're getting their lives together. Meadow, his daughter, she finally found out that she wants to go to law school, and she really figured out, what she wants to do with her life. Tony, he sits down with his family for a dinner that he hasn't done in months, and he just truly is starting to really pay attention to his actions. And then Carmela, his wife, who is constantly being cheated on, who is constantly being treated terribly by Tony, she finally gains spiritual awakening from her priest, and she finally gains independence from Tony. And lastly, their kid, their other son, he was extremely severely depressed throughout the whole show. A lot of it was based off of, how his dad was and how he saw his dad act towards other people. However, towards the end, he gained, happiness, and he got rid of that depression. However, the whole symbolism of this whole thing is at the very end of the last episode, someone walks into a diner that Tony and his family are sitting down about to have dinner. His daughter is about to walk in, and the camera goes on Tony, and he looks at the camera, and mid-song, Journey, Don't Stop Believing, it just completely cuts to a black screen. And that left a lot of audiences at the time of The Sopranos being filmed so unsettled, because they were like, there was no actual ending. But the whole point of the ending was that Tony died, and it did symbolize the fear of the unknown. I mean, it caused the whole entire audience of The Sopranos to be left in discomfort, and they didn't know what actually happened, but he died. But that's the point, is that you don't know when you die. I mean,